Hey, I'm John Graves, and this is Brad Martin, leader of SOMA, a missional community in Bartow County, Georgia. One of our missions is to make ourselves accessible to you in a way that you may not have had a chance with Christians before. So we give Brad questions that people have presented to us, and they're like, I always want to know this, but I didn't know any Christians well enough that I could ask them. So today's question is addresses the idea that it's from a Christian, and she says, well, if I have a coworker who's always trying to get me to do his work for him, and whenever I complain, it says, well, aren't Christians supposed to, help other people out? And there's that whole thing that Jesus said about somebody wants you to go 1 mile, take it 2 miles too.
Okay.
No, we're doormats, right? Where's your cross? Get your cross, man.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, and you got a lot of issues that come out of this. You know, the whole Amish thing of nonviolence and
Yeah.
turn the other cheek, meaning in all situations.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody asks you to do something, you got to do it. In fact, I think it'd be good in this situation to actually refer. I think that I don't think that's in Matthew. Is it Matthew chapter 5?
Okay.
Listen to this. Jesus says, "You've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to the one who begs from you, and don't refuse the one who would borrow from you." And so what happens is people read that passage, and first they think Jesus is referring to all contexts, period. That this is the way you handle every situation where somebody comes up and says, you know what, I want you to do my work. And you're supposed to because you're a Christian. In fact, lost people could actually begin to work our Bible against us if they were smart enough to go, you're supposed to do this. I don't want to go to work today. You're going for me.
Right.
Or the bully at school gets to say, you know what, I get to slap little Christian Johnny every day, and he has to turn the other cheek so I can drop kick him. I mean, you know, it's amazing how that thing starts coming across. The problem with that is, first, just be intuitive. Okay, we're made in God's image. Intuitively, do you believe that when Jesus said that, he was referring to all situations, period?
Okay.
So if somebody comes up and wants your coat, you know, give them your hat and gloves as well. Someone comes up and says, I want you to move out of your house, we're moving in, but you still pay the mortgage. Did Jesus mean to do that? Well, somehow intuitively, somehow intuitively, we have to know that if I'm going to guess, just Jesus didn't mean that.
Okay.
So then what you need to do, and this is a big problem in studying the Bible, is you need to go back and ask, when Jesus said that, what was the context? Okay. This is very important. The context is the Sermon on the Mount. Okay? When Jesus delivers the Sermon on the Mount, he's correcting a bunch of mess culture's got wrong. Okay. And he keeps using this, you've heard it said. And here he says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Meaning that your motivation is to get your justice. Okay? Okay? Right. Get your justice. They took from you, you take from them. And Jesus is coming back in the Sermon on the Mount to say, this is not how I want you to live. Okay. Well, how does he want you to live? He gives these examples, but in the midst of what context? So, if you go back to the beginning of the sermon, remember this is a sermon. At the beginning of a sermon, you give your thesis. Okay. Okay? It's the driving thing that's going to be the umbrella over which all the rest of these commands are going to work themselves out. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the beginning, Jesus says in verse 13 of chapter 5, he gives us the thesis. He says, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's not good for anything, throw it away. You're the light of the world. A city set on a hill can't be hidden. And he finishes this way. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven.
So we're supposed to look different, to be different.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The motivation for the life of a believer is the motivation of, I want to act in ways that you get God, that you can see Him, that He becomes tangibly through my life and my actions, tangibly understandable to you, so that God reveals Himself through me to you.
Okay.
There are times, and Jesus is saying, instead of living your life, I'm getting my justice, live your life, I want people to get God.
Okay.
And so there are times when you're in a situation where someone slaps you, and the way, if you're being driven by, I want this person to get God, I want him to see Him and understand that I'm different and I'm a part of Him as His child, then the best thing you need to do, you've got to turn the other cheek and let Him slap you on the other cheek. The Roman who would come up and say, by law, I can make you go 1 mile and carry my bags. Don't go 1 mile with that guy. He won't see anything. Go 2, and he's going to go, why did you go the 2nd mile?
Now you have a chance to witness.
Now I get to share because I'm different. I'm God's child. And I turned the other cheek, and I didn't fight that guy, and he expected me to fight him. And I got to say, because I believe in Jesus Christ.
So if somebody already knows you're a Christian, and they're seeking to take advantage of it then, well...
Yeah, all right. So there comes situations where I have to ask, if God's will is that I reveal God to him, what's the best way in this situation for me to make that happen? And if it is the kinds we just said, turn the other cheek. But if it's that bully who you've turned the cheek, you've gone and told the teacher, you've turned the other cheek, and now it's, several times later, and you can look at this kid and go, you know what, my turning the other cheek, this guy's not getting God. He's not seeing Christ in me. He's just taking advantage of this. Then you need to do the next thing that will help him get it. You need to lay into him. And so here's what I would tell my child. Son, if you have turned the other cheek, and you have turned the other cheek, and he's not seeing your light's not shining that way, then you need it, instead of seeing the grace of God, it's real life, I'm not going to take this.
That's the school calling.
Yeah. Instead of that, you need to let him see God in a different light. And that is that the next time he bullied you, you cold cock him. You knock his lights out. Right. And when he comes around, you've seen those stories where now this guy respects you. Again, you've built an opportunity where you may have an opportunity to share with him. You know why I turned the cheek those other times? You know why I didn't this time? Man, I care for you, right, and I want to do what will help you get God. Same way with your worker. Think they're abusing that, I'd say, you know what? I've worked for you, I've helped you, but you know what? I'm not going any longer. In fact, the Bible tells me that if a man won't work,
he won't eat.
He shouldn't eat. And so, stick with the context. Let your motivation be to let your light shine, and then beyond that, you may have to adjust your action to see that you can let that person get it.
All right. We hope that answered your question. If this sparked any follow-up thoughts or comments, please go ahead and email me, John, at onesoma.net.
Please don't slap me.
Any calls from the principal, refer to Brad. And please check out our website to see how we're doing. See if you can help us. Thank you.